Hey guys, it's me, Holly Madison. Welcome back to my channel. I'm continuing my reaction series. Maybe I shouldn't call it a reaction series because I think with reaction series, people are expecting like to see the video played. So maybe I will call it my tea spilling series on the girls next door. Today we are on season 4, episode 6. This is the full Monte Carlo. If you'd hit the like and subscribe, I'd really appreciate it. This episode was our second trip to Europe as a group, and I think the second trip to Europe for all 3 of us girls. And this time we were going to Paris, Monte Carlo, and Tropez. We got invited to the television festival in Monaco, and I think that festival paid for like our jet to get out there. Otherwise, we wouldn't have gone because Hef hated travel. He didn't ever want to like pay for travel or anything like that. And one of the reasons I was so thrilled to get to go to Europe on the show is because I never thought I would be able to go. Like, travel was never something like affordable or accessible for me when I was younger. And just living at the mansion, I kind of got locked in the mindset of like, okay, I'm stuck here. You know, I'm never going to be able to leave. There's nothing out there for me. And Hef never wanted to travel. So I thought I would never get to travel and, you know, never have any opportunity to do so. So I was so excited to go. And yeah, let's get started with the episode. So it starts out with a scene in Mary's office. Dick Rosenzweig, one of Hef's vice presidents, comes in and tells him about the invite to go to Monte Carlo. I am in my first confessional interview, which I give a 10 out of 10 because I like lavender on me. I don't like it anymore though because my hair isn't as white as it used to be. So I feel like now when I wear lavender, it just brings all the yellow out in my hair and my hair is like screaming yellow. But back then I loved lavender. And I'm also in my like psycho smiling mode where I'm like, it's a big honor to be invited. Which I did on purpose because I felt like this show always cut me to make me look like a bitch because I have a massive resting bitch face. And I felt like if I smiled while I was saying everything, they couldn't possibly cut it to look mean. And then it cuts to Kendra's room packing and her room is messier than ever. They should have done an episode of Hoarders at the Playboy Mansion. It would have been perfect. Oh my God, there's the worst Frankenbite of my voice. So in the confessional, I said, since we're going all the way to Europe, I really wanted to go to Paris. I begged for us to stop in Paris on the way because the thing is, the expensive part of going to Europe is just the overseas part. And once you're there, it's not, you know, you're not adding that much onto it. So I begged to go to Paris. And then Kendra was like, oh, it's my birthday, so I want to go to Tropez. So I'm explaining that, but they have this cut of my voice in between that just, it's so bad. So we're driving to the airport, we're all in our pajamas, and we realize Hef forgot his passport, which is really weird because there's everybody else is doing the packing for him. So it's just weird that that was even forgot. But thank God somebody thought of it before, you know, we got very far. That would have been a disaster. And then Hef's bragging about how he never, ever on any trip anywhere has had to carry his own passport. So relatable. Oh, I'm watching Hef go into his room and like unlock these drawers to get his passport. And it just makes me sick to my stomach because you can see videotapes in those drawers and you can only imagine what those videotapes locked up in his room were. I mean, if you've seen the Secrets of documentary, use your imagination. Kendra's wearing this really cute sweatshirt and it has like a cartoon of her on the sleeve. Right next to our hotel, there was a building that was getting refurbished or having construction or something. And they had like the facade in front of it, like the canvas facade that's like printed to look like the building, but it was all distorted. And I remember traveling to Europe around this time. That was the first time I'd ever seen those. Like now we have them here in the States. Like they always have them up at like Venetian or Palazzo in Las Vegas when they're doing construction or whatever. They just have like a I don't know what to call it, like a tarp or something that's printed to look like the building to kind of cover it up. But back then I'd only seen it in Europe and it was like really cool. I love the dress I'm wearing in Paris and I still have it, but it's at my other house, so I didn't wear it today. And I'm joking about how I'm going to tell the tour guide that we'll be back next year. And I wasn't back next year, 2008 or 2009, but I was able to come back 2010. It took me a minute to get back on track, but I did it. And we got to do a lot that trip to Paris. We got to go a lot of places I'd never been before, like the Père Lachaise Cemetery, which is one of my favorite places. but I don't think we were allowed to film. We weren't allowed to film in so many of the fun places we went in Paris both times. So it kind of sucks that I couldn't share it with you guys via the show. Now anybody can share anything, so you can just film it and throw it on YouTube and nobody cares. But back then, like getting permission to film everywhere, obviously you have to do it for TV, and it was just so, you know, different back then. Like I remember even when I went, I think I made a trip in like 2011, and I went with my photographer friend, and I met up with my photographer friend there, and we were taking pictures of a bunch of places, and she was like really timid about taking pictures a lot of places because it was just customary that you would have to ask for permission because there would be like an important piece of art in the background or whatever. And now nobody cares. Like now you see those same places all over Instagram. Everybody's taking pictures, but it was just such a different time. And then it shows us going to Saint-Tropez. And if I remember correctly, I think that wasn't the order we did it. I think it went Paris, Monte Carlo, Saint-Tropez, but I could be wrong. And Kendra's talking about how she always wanted to go to Saint-Tropez. I think because they used to always mention Saint-Tropez in like rap songs back in the day, like P. Diddy type stuff. It was always like talked about like it was the place. But we went in June before like the busy season started, so there was no one there. Like even when we went to the most popular nightclub in Saint-Tropez, literally the room was empty. Like it was crazy how seasonal it was. Like I haven't been back. I don't know how it is now, but. And they had the funniest servers when we were at the restaurant on the beach. Like this guy dressed up as Superman, and there was like a Spider-Man one. And these people selling these funny hats. We're all drinking out of the same giant drink they brought out for us. And just, you know, in a post-COVID world, that looks so disgusting to me. Everybody is flashing the cameras. I mean, I'm not because I have like a full shirt on, but clearly we reached the end of our no nudity ban for this season that we agreed on. So then we're arriving in Monte Carlo. And one of the interesting things I learned while I was there is if you want to be a citizen of Monaco, you have to be third generation. Like that's crazy. This is so tiny. I guess they can't fit any more people. Bridget's confessional interview is very cute. She's wearing a very cute Wheels and Doll Baby dress with a headband. She's back in the guest house, which I asked her why they stopped shooting the confessional interviews in her room, because they used to always do Kendra's in the game house, mine in the living room, and then Bridget's in her room. And mine was in the living room because they obviously couldn't shoot the interviews in Hef's room. He would have been beyond annoyed. And my theory why they did shoot interviews in Kendra's room in season 1, but my theory why they didn't continue is it was just a mess. And then I asked Bridget, why did they finally stop in your room? And she's like, I had to finally like beg them to not, because they would come in and set up and it would take them hours to set up in my room. And with all the lights, it would get really hot. So they're like in my room all day and I have no privacy. And I'm like, that sounds like living in the master bedroom. Like that was my life 24/7. But that was why. It was because they like took over her room for a whole day. And she was like, And she also said her interviews took a really long time. Like they took almost all day. And I remember I used to get done with mine in like a half hour to an hour. And I think that's one of the reasons I come off so robotic in this show is I just sat down in the chair and I wanted to get done as fast as possible. And I would always get good feedback when I did it fast. Like the producers wanted to get out of there too. So they were always like, oh, wow, you ripped through this really fast. Amazing. So I was always like sitting down. I was like, blah, 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 whatever you want me to say, you know? So in exchange for accepting the trip, meaning I think they paid for the plane to get us out there, and the lodging in Monte Carlo, we had to agree to do like a day of press, which was the 3 of us girls, not Hef. So we earned the trip out there. But so we went to this big building where there was just like interview after interview, photos after photos. But it was a really chill day. Like for as much as I talk about hating to do press as one of the girls next door, like the media in Europe was so different. First of all, I don't think they like really cared about us that much. Like I don't remember us being like as in demand as probably some other people there. So I remember it kind of feeling leisurely, even though we were like there all day. At one point we just kind of left and took off and went to the beach. But nobody was asking us like weird, gross questions that I remember. It wasn't like the American media, which is like really snarky and gross. By the way, I'm wearing the same suit that I wore on the press day in here. And I put it on. When I took it out of my archive to put it on, I thought, okay, I'm just gonna wear the top and I'll put the bottom on, but I probably won't be able to zip it up. And I'm so excited I was able to like zip it up and fit it on. Like Not to be obnoxious, I know some of you hate it when I talk about like looks or body image stuff, but it's motivating me to stick to the diet plan that I'm on, you know, because do you guys ever like start a diet or start some kind of fitness routine or regimen, and if you don't see any kind of results within the first month, it gets kind of like, why am I doing this? So I'm really excited. I know some of you hate it when I talk about beauty stuff or body image stuff, but I also am trying to always keep it real on here and just say whatever's coming to my mind. And you have to understand, like, I spent 7 years of my life from age 22 to 30. 22, like, I know it doesn't feel like it when you are 22 because we all think we're all grown up and badass and whatever, but your prefrontal cortex isn't even fully developed. Like, you're still a baby. So I'm spending 7 years in this bubble where I get, the only reinforcement I get is that looks are the only thing that matters on you. And like, you're not worth anything if you don't look perfect. So that's not something I can even deprogram myself from like 15, 20 years later. And in some ways I hold on to it, in some ways because I still want to keep the things that are authentic to myself. Like I still, when I was a teenager, I wanted to look a certain way before I even got involved with the mansion or anything. So I still want to hang on to like what my authentic tastes are. Like if I want to have long sleeping beauty hair, I'm going to maintain that and it's going to make me happy. You know what I mean? Because I kind of don't like going the other way where people are like, oh, well, if you're away from all that now and if you've rejected it, like why do you still look like that? And I'm like, but I wanted to look like that before I was even there. Do you know what I mean? It just got to, when I was there, it got so unhealthy where you started to feel like looks were the only thing you are, and looks and being young or looking young is like the only thing that makes you worthy at all as a woman. And when you're in that bubble for 7 years, starting at age 22, it's not something that's easily filtered out of you. It's not. Like I always say, if I were a more evolved human, like I probably wouldn't care so much about the way I look, but not there yet. Chad Michael Murray sighting. So our next activity was we went to a cocktail party at the state minister's house. I'm wearing a blue Mandalay dress that I still have. I have almost everything from this episode still in my archive. The only thing I don't have is a white dress that I wear later. It was a really inexpensive, like fast fashion type white dress. I don't remember where I got it, but I remember not being happy with it when I wore it. Like I felt kind of frumpy in it, so I think I got rid of it. And it was really a poofy skirt, so it kind of like took up a lot of space in storage, but everything else I kept. I always feel so awkward at cocktail parties. Like I don't even remember this cocktail party that much. I was probably dissociating a little bit because I feel like cocktail parties, you're just like standing around and you're supposed to be socializing, which I'm really, really bad at. Ooh, Eric Dane from Euphoria was there. In my confessional interview, it cuts me like laughing sometimes after things I say that just aren't funny and that I didn't mean to be funny, and it's just really awkward and weird. I want to speculate that maybe they do that because I'm just so dry that they're like, oh, let's lighten her up a little bit, but it comes off disjointed to me. So we went to the casino at Monte Carlo. It was gorgeous. Somebody asked me in the comments if I felt any spirits there. I didn't. I wasn't very sensitive to stuff at this point in my life, though. I didn't really become sensitive until I was pregnant for the first time, for whatever reason. Liminal spaces. Sometimes when you're in liminal spaces in your life, whether you're like going through puberty or like pregnant or something like that, that's when a lot of these like spiritual abilities can kind of come to a peak or kind of appear in your life. So that was it for me. And they're these huge casino chips. The ones that were worth a lot of money were like big squares. I wish I would have kept the white dress though, because now I look at it and I'm like, oh, it was really pretty. It's funny how when you're more in the moment, you're more self-critical. And I remember at the time thinking, oh, I look dumpy. I look like a house in that dress. And now I look at it, I'm like, it was really pretty. What's my problem? Like I have friends of mine who are like so insecure, they won't take a picture. And I'm like, you are going to regret this when you get older, because trust me, like you're insecure now, but you're going to look back and be like, what was I thinking? The hotel we stayed in was gorgeous too. So this is a scene where Hef and I go to sleep early and everybody else gets to go out and have fun, which was the story of my life. So we are on the part where Bridget, Kendra, and Juliana go exploring in Monte Carlo, and they end up being detained by police because I think they were like ended up on the palace grounds or something. I'll see what happened when the show keeps rolling. But I wasn't there, so I'm not gonna know any more than what they say on the show. I do wanna say that there was a night we went out to a nightclub called Jimmy's, and I don't think that was covered on the show. And I feel like as we were going home, and this could all be a blur, and I could be wrong on this, but I feel like Kendra threw a fit because she wanted to stay out, or there was some kind of variation on that happened when they snuck out. I don't know, but I'm not even hating on that because the situation we were in was so restrictive. Like, imagine you're 22 and you want to like stay out at the club longer than 2 hours. You know, it's not that unreasonable of a thing to want. Like, when I moved in at age 22, I didn't really care about like nightclubs or meeting other celebrities or partying or anything like that. But there were other things I wanted to do that I wanted to throw fits about. Like, I did never throw a fit because I was afraid of getting in trouble. But I'm trying to think of some good examples. But like, there was one night when we all stayed the night on the Queen Mary and all the other girls got to go explore and I had to stay in. And it was just like, it was stuff like that I really wanted to do. Or like going to a good friend's wedding and I couldn't go. Just like simple everyday stuff we should have been allowed to do. Am I in portrait mode? Sorry about that, guys. I'm back. Bridget says there was a language barrier because they speak no French. They could have used me after all. Juliana is so pretty. I don't know if you guys watched my reaction video to our first trip to Europe, but that was the playmate I was talking about that I'd seen in the German issue of the magazine that I forgot, I can't say that word, that I really wanted to meet, but I ended up getting sick that night, so I couldn't go. Sorry guys if this is a short video. When there's like long stretches that I'm not in or stuff that I wasn't there for, I don't have that much to comment on. Oh, I think part of why they got detained might have been because they had cameras with them and there no permits. So I think they were like, what's going on here? I remember the producer got a really big kick out of making the graphic where it looked like Bridget and Kendra had mug shots. I don't know why I remember that. And Kendra goes, a midnight stroll with Bridget led to a wonderful arrest. Oh my God, and like the show's producers' faces are pixelated on this. And I know that the producer of the show always wanted to do like a cops kind of scene, like where people's faces are pixelated. And he wanted to do that in episode 4, season 1, where somebody stole Kendra's gift bag. He wanted to cover the process of that girl getting asked to leave the mansion and like blur her face and stuff, but Hef was like, no. And then Bridget says, I wasn't worried about the police or anything because I knew we didn't do anything wrong, but I was more worried about Hef and if he was going to be pissed. And I think that kind of sums up like kind of the overlay of fear that we kind of lived under, or me and Bridget anyway, after just living there for so long. Because like before the show, it was a different story. It was like a different life. But Hef didn't care, and when it shows everybody walking in, I'm busy texting. So finally in June 2007, I'm finally texting, and it was probably work related because I don't think I had any friends who texted. The hotel suite we were in is so my style. It's all like the baby blue upholstery. Somebody asked me if I was nervous during the parasailing thing. Not really, because we had life vests. No, I forgot. Because first of all, I couldn't swim at this point in my life. And we had life vests on and stuff, but they would do this thing when they took you parasailing where they would dip you. And I was like, are they gonna leave us here to drown? And then they would pull you back up. They would speed up so you'd get the air and pull back up again. But they would dip you and it freaked me out. I wasn't expecting that. Oh my God. So they're showing this confessional interview that I hate. I talk about it all the time because just my hair's not done. I'm wearing a weird white sweater. And it just goes to show like how jumbled everything in this season is, that I was doing interviews about this way before any of the other stuff was filmed, you know, for the first episode of this season. Because we went to Monte Carlo in June. So it would have been after Alaska, but before everything else, except it went Golf Scramble, Alaska, this, and then everything else. And like 4th of July and Eddie coming home was like way later, even though that was the first episode. I do feel like travel and sightseeing was one of the things the three of us had in common. Like we were all so different and our personalities sometimes didn't overlap in the best way, like with the whole Hef dynamic. But one thing we all agreed upon was that we really love to travel, and we really wanted to get out and get the most out of every trip and see as much as we could see and do as much as we could do. So that was awesome. It was so much fun though, the parasailing. Like, that's one of my favorite things I've ever done. I feel like in this episode, they're trying to set up this whole thing to make it look like Bridget and Kendra are interested in the prince. I think they tried to egg me on and get me to say stuff too, but I absolutely refused, because I just felt like it was like they were trying to get me to like play into like a gold digger trope, or that Hef would be mad at me if I said it, like all kinds of combinations of things. So I dug my feet in. Mary's so funny. She looks at Kendra and she goes, "You got to know when to hold them and know when to fold them." Like, I love her sayings. Okay, so the continuity's a mess because this is supposed to be a whole different day, but we're back in our outfits that we wore to the casino. I think because they wanted to like save meeting the prince for last or almost last, but still. We could have done parasailing and then the casino. I don't know why. And then after we meet the prince, Kendra says something like, "I saw him looking at my chest. I saw him." And then I guess he was at the Kentucky Derby after party, and I don't think he was too happy about that line. Kendra's talking about how when you walk into a room full of rich people and you walk in with Hef, she's like, "I think we like lighten the mood a little bit." But I remember we used to go to these parties in Beverly Hills sometimes, and it was so interesting walking in because all the ladies would see us walking in with Hef and they'd look at us and be like, but like not even in a, like, talk all the smack you want. Like, I don't care. Like, but when you talk smack and tag people, or like laugh at people to their face, or like are rude to their face, or like passive aggressive low key so they can see it, you're a dick. But little do they know, I was looking at them and, you know, taking inventory of what plastic surgery not to get. Oh, I saw our still photographer we had with us on that trip was this guy named James, and he was so fun. He started traveling with us a little bit during these last 2 seasons. Oh my God, Mary is so funny. So Kendra and Bridget and Juliana are talking to the prince, and Mary pops in and goes, "Did you hear the girls got arrested last night?" It's so funny. Mary is the star of this episode. Somebody asked me why in the party where we meet the prince, I'm not really talking to the prince, just Bridget and Kendra are, and I'm hanging out in the background. And there's 2 reasons for that. One is because Hef always wanted me kind of like hovering around him, and he'd get mad if I even went off and hung out with the other girls. So that was reason number 1. But reason number 2, I felt like they were trying to do this storyline in the show where we were all like really wanting to meet the prince. And I didn't want to play into it because I just felt like they were trying to push like a gold digger trope or something. So that was why. I got invited to go to this festival again when I was doing Holly's World, but at the time I was in my show in Vegas. And the way shows in Vegas are, like, I mean, if you're a huge pop star, it doesn't matter. You can perform whenever you want. But for me, I had to keep a tight schedule to keep the show running, and I wasn't allowed to take time off during the summer because it's a busy season. And since this is in June, I couldn't go. Womp womp. So then it shows us going to some event, like our last event there. And I remember that day there was a salon in the hotel, and I went to go get my hair blown out because I think that was the day we went parasailing. And this was back when I had those stringy individual extensions all through my hair. And I remember the hairdressers in the salon had never seen anything like it, and they didn't want to touch my hair. Like, they were afraid to blow dry it. Luckily, I convinced them it was safe, because I don't know what I would have done. I would have just had to go with wet hair, because I brought, like, you know, a hairdryer and curling iron and stuff, but you would plug it into the voltage adapter and it would just like break the curling irons and stuff. So I didn't have any way to dry my hair or do my hair on my own. And then for any trips following this, I just bought the hairdryer and curling iron and stuff over there, so I didn't have to worry about like voltage adapters. But the Extension Chronicles. I still have the dress I wore to this. It's a Roberto Cavalli dress. I probably couldn't fit into it now though. I didn't try it on, because even back then, like, my boobs barely fit in it. Like, it was like I had to watch all night just to make sure it was like not below the danger zone. And there's this weird shot of us in the auditorium seated. What's wrong with me? And there's this weird green spotlight on us, and we all look like ghouls. And then we get on the plane right after the event. Like, that was how Hef was with travel. Like, he made a point of not being away from home 1 extra minute after. Like, he didn't even want to like go back to the hotel room and like, okay, let's get in pajamas and let's get comfortable and then get on the plane. It was like straight from the event on the plane. Oh, this plane ride was interesting. But I feel like I can't talk about it because I'm like outing somebody who's like not really part of this show. But there was some drama on the plane ride home. I remember I was doing work on my computer. I was editing Laura Croft's Playmate photos, and somebody on the plane was getting up behind me and kept commenting on her body, like she wanted her, and she like wanted to like jump on her and stuff. And I'm like, okay, it was just like making me uncomfortable. It was really weird. And then I don't remember what else was happening to cause drama, but then like Kendra got into it, and then this person started calling Kendra a bobble-headed bitch, and it was just weird. It was really strange. Like if this had been a commercial flight, she would have been like kicked off the flight probably. Okay, so favorite and least favorite part of this episode. My favorite part was Mary because she was so funny. I also liked all my clothing choices. Least favorite, I think, was just being reminded of how, you know, kind of oddly restrictive that lifestyle was. Like if Kendra wanted to stay out at the nightclub a few extra hours, she couldn't. Or, you know, I couldn't go out and explore with the girls that night when they went out. And it was just like, it's weird because like here we are in the 4th season of a hit show, and we have a lot more freedom than when we started, but we're still not like our own people. I think that contract we had to sign for the show was coming right after this too. So it was a little weird, but there wasn't really anything bad in this episode. So overall, I liked it. So anyway, I will see you guys next time. The next episode is called Every Day is Wednesday, and it's all about the dogs. And I have no clue what this episode is. I have no memory of it. So I'll see you then. Bye.